What do you think? Should we start?
I think we should start, sure.
Let's do it. Okay, well first off, thank you all for coming. I know you can always choose to go somewhere else, and I hope that what we present tonight will be useful to you. And also thanks to Pammy and the Lakeville Library for giving us a forum, a place where we can actually do this. So I thought I'd first start off. I have a question. I want to know how many of you have either self-published or are considering self-publishing? Okay, that's almost all of us. Okay, good. Good, and that's why we're here. So what I want to do is, we can't cover everything about self-publishing, there's no way. It's just too big, it's too vast a subject. But what we can do, and what I hope to do, is give you some information, give you some tools that will help you get started, and hopefully give you the right questions you need to start asking before you decide to dive in, or if you're already in over your head, maybe help you think through the process. That's what I really want to try to do. So what I've done is I've kind of designed a presentation around what I think are some of the 8 important questions you need to ask at the outset, and I've tried to provide some answers and information for those questions. You have the handouts. I hope everybody got one. Summarizes all of this, so it should make it easier for following and taking notes, and also act as a resource for you, I hope, in your career and your publishing aspirations. So I thought I'd tell you just really brief about myself. My real name is James Wadsworth. My pen name is JW Elliot. And I have a pen name because I'm a professional historian, and I have published traditionally. I have 5 traditionally published books that are works of history. And I work, so I have 2 on the Inquisition. I have 1 on Columbus's first voyage. I have 1 on colonial Weymouth, Massachusetts. And I have another on a global history of piracy. So that's what my professional work has done. But I've also self-published. Right now I've published 5, 6 books, and more coming in the train. And so for me, it's been a big transition to shift from traditional publishing to self-publishing, and there is a big learning curve. And I think that's one thing that we have to actually remember, because sometimes we don't remember that. It isn't the same thing, and there's a lot more you're responsible for if you're going to be a self-published author. So that's what I want to start off with. Well, let's start with a reality check. So this is by Zoe Winters. She said, whatever you may have heard, self-publishing is not a shortcut to anything except maybe insanity. Self-publishing, like every other kind of publishing, is hard work. You won't wake up one morning good at it. You have to work for that. And that's something to remember, because that's literally true. This is a lot of hard work. And again, there's a big learning curve. And so you have to be able and willing to be flexible enough to learn from this process as you go through it. And you're going to make mistakes. Everybody does. What you need to do is try and learn from those mistakes, build on them, and hopefully you'll surpass them, and you'll get better with each book. My goal as a self-published author is to get 10% better every year. How do I measure that? I have no idea. But what I do is the consistent effort for that, working towards it, is what I think you need to do if you're going to self-publish. In my experience, there are 2 big mistakes that people who want to self-publish make. The first one is that they publish too soon. And what I mean by that is before they're ready and before their book's ready, they get too anxious and they put it out. The reason this is a problem is that if you do this, you can turn people off if you haven't mastered the craft well enough to publish. Now, I'm not suggesting that this means you should revise until you die. That's not the other option. Which you can do. I mean, you can never stop revising. There's always something to improve, no matter how good your book is. I mean, how many of you have read a best-selling author and found mistakes and errors in the book? It happens, right? So I'm not suggesting that, but I am suggesting that you take the time to take care of this other big mistake. You need to study the craft. Writing of all kinds, either academic or fiction writing, is a craft. It's a craft that can be learned. In fact, it took me 12 years of schooling to learn how to write books in history, right? And yet very often we don't think it takes the same amount of time or effort or learning to write works of fiction. Sometimes we assume because we read fiction we can write it. Well, it helps. You need to be reading fiction if you're going to write it. That is true. But there's no way to shortcut this avenue. You have to study the craft. At some point, you've got to stop and study it. And so I think that's important. If you're so inclined, which I hope you are, these are some of my favorite books. I'm reading Saul Stein right now and getting myself very depressed because I'm seeing all the mistakes I'm making that he's clarified. So I have a lot more work to do in terms of improving this aspect of my craft, and that's what I intend to do. Another one I really like is Story Genius by Lisa Crone. The reason I like this one is because she actually lays out a process for developing the internal story of the character. which is what all great fiction is really ultimately about. And so that's why I like it. I don't do everything she says, but I do a lot of it. In fact, my third book in my series, my Arthur Heathland series, I did using her techniques. And one of the comments I'm consistently getting on that book is it has great character development. Well, that's because I was studying her techniques and trying to apply them. Am I perfect? Of course not. I still make mistakes, obviously. But this is an important thing to do. Here's another one of my favorite ones, James Scott Bell. The people in our writing group hear me talk about him all the time because I think his stuff is great. This book is really important. If you're going to self-publish, you have to know how to self-edit. And so he gives you the tools you need to actually go through a story and pick it apart and figure out what's working and what's not and help you fix it. So these are some of the books I recommend if you want to start studying the craft. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. I just wanted to throw this out. I'm going to work on the assumption that you've already written a high-quality book, and then the question is, what do I do now? With that said, the first question you have to ask yourself is, am I going to go traditional publishing route, or am I going to go self-published? And the thing you need to understand is there's no right answer. It depends. It depends on your goals, it depends on your desires, your personality, the time you have on your hands. And each approach has its advantages and disadvantages. So let's start with traditional publishing first. In the real world, the gatekeepers for actually generations for publishing books have been literary agents and editors of publishing houses. They've been the gatekeepers. They're the ones who get the manuscripts, they sift through this stuff, and they find the gems that were going to be published, and then they work on them, clean them up, and they send them out to the world. They don't always get it right, however. How many have heard the story of Harry Potter? It was rejected, I think it was 14 times before it was picked up. The gatekeepers almost denied us the world of Harry Potter. Why? Well, they had their reasons, and they were probably good reasons. But it turns out they don't always get it right. But they can be helpful. If they accept your work, they actually have a financial interest in making sure your work succeeds. And that's something as a self-publisher you don't have. So that's something to consider. So what are some of the advantages then? So here's, I think, some of the advantages. One is writer recognition. Right? It's nice to have professional editors and literary agents look at your work and say, I like this, I'm willing to invest time, money, and effort into making this book a success. That feels great. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's a perfectly legitimate reason to go traditional publishing route. Another one is they can give you access to a marketing platform. Publishers have marketing platforms. That's what they do. And so if you're self-publishing, you haven't got that marketing platform necessarily. So that's actually beneficial. The other thing they provide is they'll provide you the cover design. And you may or may not have a lot of input in that cover design. It depends. In my traditional publishing books I had a lot of input. They always asked me my ideas. I gave them, and usually what ended up was some approximation of the ideas I originally gave them, usually better than ideas I had, actually. So that happens, but they do offer that. They also provide some editing. I want to qualify this. I said some editing. And that's because they don't provide the kind of editing you would expect if you were publishing back in the 1940s. Things have changed. The system is faster, it's leaner, it's meaner. And they don't take the time to edit like they used to. It costs money, it takes time. They expect you to provide them something better, so they don't have to edit that much. The other thing they can provide, of course, this is important, is knowledge of the markets. They know the markets, they work in the markets. They can help you figure out, especially if you have a literary agent and you have a next project in mind, that person is a sounding board for you. You can talk to them about your next book. They can help you figure out which one to write or not to write, depending on what they understand about the market. So those are great advantages. And they're ones that shouldn't be cast aside lightly, I think. What are some of the disadvantages? Well, the biggest one, I think, is that traditional publishers are going to take most of the profit. Usually they take anywhere from 90 to 95%. And to add to that, agents are going to snag another 10 to 15% of your author royalties. So if you're getting a 10 or 7% royalty on your book, they're going to take another 10 to 15% of that for their services. So that's something to consider. Also, as I said before, they're no longer going to take the time to cultivate promising authors the way they used to. The perfect example of this is To Kill a Mockingbird. That book is, in my estimation, an excellent book. It's one of my favorite books of all time. But the reason that book became so great was because that editor spent 5 years working with her on revising and editing that book until it was so polished that it became the legend, I think, that it is today. That's just not going to happen for most of us anymore. Editors aren't doing it. And that's just a fact. They can't afford to anymore. The other thing to downside is that authors nowadays are still expected to do most of their marketing. You're still expected to create your platform and work on your platform. They provide you assistance and help. Sometimes they even provide training. I've seen some publishers who actually provide actual training on how to do stuff. And that's nice, but they expect you to be shouldering a lot of the burden of marketing because they're not going to put a ton of money behind an unknown author. The people who get the money for marketing are J.K. Rowling, James Patterson. They get millions of dollars to roll out their books. If you're a first-time author with no platform, you'll be lucky to get a month's worth of advertising. And then it's going to shut down because they're going to shift it to somebody else. And that's the reality. Also, as a published author, what you have to do is sign over rights to your work. And it depends on the rights. You need to read the contract carefully. You can sign over just English language rights, which means they can publish it anywhere in the English-speaking world. You can sign over language rights. It depends. You can sign over translation rights. You actually have a lot of rights when you've written a book. You have audio rights, you have ebook rights, you have print book rights, you have extended edition rights, you even have movie rights. Although getting your book into film is quite difficult. But nonetheless, those rights are there. And the contract is what they're going to use to try and secure those rights. And when you sign over those rights, it depends on, you need to check and see if they have a clause that has the rights come back to you after a period of time. So for example, if they decide to stop publishing you, do the rights revert back to the author? You need to know that before you go in. Because the purpose of the contract is to get as much out of you for as little as possible. That's because this is a business, right? So you need to keep that in mind. But you have to sign over those rights, and the contracts are going to actually come after you. But you also have to understand that if you get an advance, and not all publishers are offering advances anymore, and those advances they are offering tend to be smaller now. Those days of the $1 million advance, except for exceptional works, are gone. You'll be lucky to get a $5,000 or $10,000 advance on a book. The problem is if you don't run out the advance, what that means is you're going to be dropped. They're going to call the book a failure. Now, if they gave you, say, $50,000 in advance and you earned $49,000, you still didn't earn it out. The book is still likely to be dropped. It's still going to be considered a failure. And that's the reality of the publishing world. So that's something to remember. If you become what they call a mid-lister, meaning you're not one of the top sellers, but you're not in the bottom sellers either, you're kind of mid-listing, you live in this limbo world where they can drop you anytime they choose to. And there are lots of mid-listers who are now self-publishing because they got dropped from publishing houses. It's not because the book wasn't selling, it's the book wasn't selling enough to justify the publisher's expense. Okay, so I think those are the advantages and disadvantages of traditional publishing. Our next option is, of course, indie publishing. Here's the good news and the bad news. The good news is that you have to get to do everything yourself. And the bad news is you get to do everything yourself. Right? So never forget this when you go into self-publishing, because this is the reality. Again, as I said before, I think the danger of self-publishing is that authors often publish prematurely. And this has lent a lot of that kind of contribute to that reputation of self-publishing, published works as being lower quality. It just isn't true. There are self-published works out there that go from very poor quality to extremely high quality. The whole gamut is there because it's self-publishing. People are self-regulating. There's no gatekeepers here, except for the audience. The audience becomes the gatekeeper. So that's something to keep in mind. If you choose to self-publish, I think one of your main emphasis needs to be working on that craft. Making sure you can put out a book that looks as polished and clean and professional as you can possibly make it. And that means every aspect of it. So it's a big task. So what are some of the advantages of this? Well, you get to keep all the rights. And you can do whatever you want with them. If you can arrange for translation rights and some foreign language, like German, then you can do it. You have complete control over your rights. It also means you can publish anywhere you want. But remember, if you ever do take a contract from someone, you're signing over rights. And if you do that, you do not have the rights anymore. They'll have them until they revert back to you. So you need to make sure you keep that clear. The other is you have complete control over cover design, content, Marketing, that's all in your basket. You get to do it all. And you have to do it all, right? So, two sides of the same coin. The author also can receive higher royalties here, anywhere from 35 to 70%. On Kindle Unlimited or Kindle KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing, it's 70% for an ebook and 60% for print books. So if you contrast that with what you get from a publisher, most publishers, as I said, are going to give you 7 to 10% of the cover cost of the book. So if you've got a book that's selling at $10, you're going to get 10% of that. If you do it through KDP, you get, if it's an ebook, actually I've written too much for an ebook, it'll be $9.99. That's where the cutoff is. After $9.99, it goes to a lower royalty. But if you're selling for $9.99, you get 70% of that if it's an ebook on Kindle Direct. That actually matters. It adds up. If you figure you're earning 10 to 25 cents on a book traditionally published, and you're earning anywhere from $2 to $5 on a book you self-publish, it does add up over time. This is one reason why traditionally published authors who already have an audience are changing and going self-published. Brandon Sanderson has already done some, and others are also following. So, okay, those are the advantages. What, did I go through the, okay, here we are, there we go. So, disadvantage, you're responsible for everything. If you mess up, it's on your head, right? Your cover design, your editing, your marketing, it's all there. And the problem is, all this costs money. A cover design, it depends on where you go and what you do. It can cost you anywhere from $100 to $1,000. For my cover designer charged me $300 to get me an ebook cover and a print cover. That's what I have to pay her. She does a good job. I like her, and so I'll continue to work with her. But I think that's something to keep in mind. We often forget that there's a cost here. The other big cost, the one that's really can be crippling if you're just getting started, is the editing. Editing, it depends on the editor, but a book that's 80,000 words is probably going to cost you upwards of $3,000 to $5,000 to have somebody professionally edit it. If you're going to market, again, there are free marketing things I'm going to talk about, but marketing could cost you, again, anywhere from $100 to thousands of dollars a month, depending on what you want to throw at it. The thing you have to remember about marketing is you do need to make money back. It still needs to be, you still need to treat it like a business. If you just throw money away, you're not actually helping yourself. Other one, you don't have a team of publishing professionals to help you make this book a success, unless you create one. You're on your own. And so that's something to consider. And of course, all of this takes time away from writing. And that's another thing to consider, because your productivity is going to suffer if you have to spend hours a day doing all this yourself. But it's something to remember. Okay, so that's the intro. Any questions about these so far? Are you all feeling depressed now? Don't feel depressed. There is hope. All right. So we're going to then proceed by assuming that you decided to self-publish and that you're ready to go. Again, there is no single path. There are multiple paths. Every author has to figure out their own path. The one thing I do want to caution you is if you're going to start self-publishing, don't try and do everything all at once. You need to pick small tasks and work at one thing, figure it out, and then move on to the next one. That, I think, is probably the best approach. Here's what I did. I started with this book. This is my first self-published book. It's called Stick and String, A Beginner's Guide to Building Laminated Fiberglass Longbows. This is a hobby of mine. I've been doing it for years, and I enjoy doing it. So I put this book together using Microsoft Word, which I found out was not the easiest thing to use. I put it out there in the world. The reason I did this book first was because there was no real cost to me. I could do this myself. My wife and I did the editing and the layout and design. I had a friend help me get the photos for the cover. I have a son-in-law who's actually a cover designer, or a graphic designer, and he helped me make sure it didn't look silly. Right? And so we put it all together and we put it out there. And I'm surprised it's still selling. I still sell about 10 copies a month. Right? Am I going to get rich? No. But I'm selling about 10 copies a month. It's provided a value, and it gave me a chance to practice this process of going through. I would recommend doing that, even if you're only going to do a short story or a novel or a novella or something like that, just so you can get your feet wet and get used to it, figure out the programs you have to use. That's what I did. And then I went from there and I published all those books over there. Most of my work is fiction, my self-published stuff is fiction. I have two that are not. I have a writer's guide to Archer that I also did using InDesign. And if you're done, you can go look at those and see the difference between these two books. This was the first one, and you'll see there's lots of problems with it. You look at that one, and you'll see it's a lot better. It's a lot cleaner. Perfect? No, but it's cleaner. Yeah.
Does that mean you did an ISBN for that one, given that it was a smaller work, or no?
I did because for print, you have to have an ISBN.
Okay,
Ebooks on Amazon, you don't.
okay,
But print, you do. So I just took the free Amazon one for this one.
okay.
Yeah. Okay. This brings us to our second question. If we're going to assume you're going to publish, the second question you have to ask yourself is, am I going to go narrow or wide in how I distribute the work? And that's a big question. It's one you need to answer before you get too far into it. Because if you don't answer this one up front, you're going to end up spinning your wheels. So you need to ask yourself this question quite seriously. When I say narrow, I mean picking one avenue, one distribution source, and focusing and concentrating your efforts there. Usually this is going to mean Amazon. Amazon controls somewhere around 85% of the market. So in my estimation, that means you need to be on Amazon in some form or another. But this is what it means. Most commonly, it means going on Amazon using Kindle Unlimited, Kindle Select. So what are the advantages here? Well, you got Amazon has a system to allow you to advertise your work. And it's not that expensive. You can choose how much you spend. When I first started doing Amazon advertisements, I had it so I was only spending about $30, $40 a month. Not a lot, but I was getting my feet wet trying to figure it out. Now I'm usually using the advertisements. I'm usually spending about $300 a month on the advertisements. Last month it was $277, right? So it's gone up, but so has the return once I figured out the system. So that's important because, as I said, if you're going to be on Amazon, you need to advertise them. That's where the readers are looking for books. So you want to advertise where the readers are, and that's why I think you should use Amazon for that. Also, I really recommend Amazon or Kindle Select. I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But Kindle Select gives you the opportunity to get access to readers at no cost to the reader. So you can build a following, an audience, without having them put out their necks or their money for you. And that's why I think it's worth doing. Again, we'll talk about that a little bit more later. The other thing they offer is expanded distribution. I'm ambivalent about this. Expanded distribution on Amazon means they allow it to go into bookstores and libraries, and they advertise to them. But the reality is, how many bookstores do you know are going to buy books from Amazon? Exactly. Right? This is the problem with expanded distribution in my estimation. Most of them see Amazon as a competitor, the evil giant in the room, and they usually aren't going to buy from them. So that's a reality, but that's just my opinion. But I think that's a problem. What is nice is it gives you one site to keep track of. You don't have to sit there and upload your stuff on multiple sites. There's one spot. You can put your ebook and your print in the same place. It's on your little bookshelf, and you can keep track of what's going on. And you can also keep track of your sales numbers, your page reads. All that stuff is right there on the site. It's really easy and simple to use. Also, Amazon provides free ISBNs. We'll talk about those in a minute. You can use both print and ebook format. You can use large print format as well if you want to. I have a couple of mine that are large print. And this is good for authors who don't have a fan base already. If you don't already have an established audience, Amazon can actually help you make some serious strides towards getting one. So that's nothing to sniff at. It's actually really helpful. And the cons. Kindle Unlimited requires you, or Kindle Select requires you to be exclusive with your ebook. So what this means is, Kindle Select is a program you can enlist your book in. It cycles through every 90 days, and then you can either have it automatically re-enlist, or you can go and manually do it if you want. You can take it off and put it back on, it doesn't matter. But once it's in Kindle Select, your ebook cannot be distributed anywhere else. Anywhere. You can't give it away free. You can't put it on Barnes & Noble or Kobo or Apple Books. You can't go anywhere. It's an exclusivity agreement. And once it's there, if they find out you have it elsewhere, they'll shut down your site. They'll take you off. So you got to be careful about this. What I have all of my books except the ones that I need to market elsewhere on Kindle Select. So I have a 99-cent short story that actually introduces my series, and I have that available to give away free on different sites. So that means it's not in Kindle Select, because it can't be. I'd be breaking the agreement. Right? So that's something to remember. But if you put it in Kindle Select, you're forced to go narrow by Amazon's exclusivity agreement. Some people really chafe under that, but that's something to be aware of. Also, you need to know that if you're on Amazon, your books are not going to be sold on Barnes & Noble and Kobo, Apple Books. They're just not there. And again, as I said, the expanded distribution, I think, is largely useless. And also, I don't like it because expanded distribution drives up the print cost of your book. I've never quite been able to figure out why it drives it up. It's still the same printing thing. They print in the same place, and they ship it out from the same place. I don't know why it goes up, but it does. And it dramatically decreases your royalties. So for example, I have my print books up on there for $10.99, and when I tried to check out the expanded distribution, it dropped my royalty down to 39 cents. So consequently, I unchecked the box, right? Because I just think that's silly. But that's the way the system is. That's one of the disadvantages of going narrow there. Any questions about narrow? All right, let's go wide then. So wide means what it means, going wide. This means you put it out everywhere you can. So that means put it on Kobo, putting on Barnes & Noble, Apple Books, Amazon, Ingram Spark. You put it everywhere. If you do this again, you can't put your books in Kindle Select. You can have them on Amazon, but you can't put them in Kindle Select. That's the only thing. At least your ebooks. I should have clarified that. Your print books can go wide. You do whatever you want with your print books. But your ebooks, if you're in Kindle Select, are exclusive to Kindle Select. Your print books can work. So I have my print books on Ingram Spark, but not because I can distribute those wide. I can't do that with the ebooks because they're in Select. Does that make sense?
Can you do that with Barnes & Noble too, or no?
What do you mean?
With the print books?
Yes, you can put them on Barnes & Noble. The reason I didn't initially is because I had it's an ISBN issue, but
Okay.
I could go put them on now if I wanted. But since they're on Ingram Spark, they distribute from Barnes & Noble anyway, so
Oh, okay.
it doesn't matter. All right, what are some of the advantages of this? Well, you reach people who don't or won't use Amazon. And those people are out there. There are people who really don't like Amazon for all kinds of reasons. Some of them good, some of them strange. But if that's an issue for you, then that's something to take under consideration. Another is that this is good for authors who already have a wide fan base, a wide audience. So if somebody already knows that they can put out a book and drop 10,000 copies in a week, for them, go wide. What do you need Amazon for? You already have an audience. For people like me, that's not going to happen. So I use Amazon to help me build that audience. All right, so that's basically, I think, the only advantages I can think of for going wide. But it has several disadvantages. One is you have to upload and manage your files on multiple sites. Although Draft2Digital will help you with this, it's rough. So it depends on how much of a tolerance you have for managing multiple sites. And it can be time consuming. If you have them on 5, 6 different sites and you have to go back and say you have to make an edit, that means you have to upload 5 different sites, those new edits that you had to fix. That's something to consider. Also, there's no access to Kindle Unlimited or Kindle Select, which means you have no access to that audience, that potential audience there. You also, if you go wide, you have to buy your ISBNs. You can't use a free Amazon ISBN. No one else will take it. The only place you can use those is on Amazon. If you try and upload that on Ingram Spark, they'll shut you down and say, no, you got another one. So we're going to talk about those in a minute, but that's a real issue. Okay, those I think are some of the main disadvantages. Any questions about these? All right, so that's a choice you have to make, whether you're going to go narrow or wide. There are people out there, like Joanna Penn. She is an absolute advocate of going wide. She absolutely despises the exclusivity agreement on Amazon and refuses to participate. And I say, good for her. For me, that doesn't work. So that's why I use it. Okay, so once you've decided on that, you have the next question you have to ask yourself is about formatting. How are you going to format this monster? It's one thing to write the book. The next problem is actually making it publishable. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this, but I wanted to briefly mention some of the options you have out there to help you format. Some of them you might already be familiar with, some you might not, but hopefully it'll give you some tools you can put in your book. In my estimation, the main goal you have to have in formatting your book is you want the book to be as professional as possible. You don't want people at the library to pick up your book and say, it's self-published, right? You don't want them to know, right? That's my goal, is trying to reach that point where they won't be able to tell that it's self-published at all. That's a high goal to meet. It's a high bar, but it's one I think you should strive for if you're going to do your own publishing. All right, so here's some things you have, some tools you have. Scrivener is one. There are people who absolutely love Scrivener. I'm not one of them. Yeah, Katie does. I'm not one of them. Scrivener has given me major headaches. When I was trying to write my Writer's Guide to Archery book, there's like 170 pictures in there. Scrivener collapsed. It shut down every time. I couldn't use it. I finally, after, I have to tell you, many weeks of trying to format this thing in there, I gave up. So that's my biggest beef with them. They handle some images, but not a lot. So that's just an issue. But Scrivener does have a lot of opportunities for it. It's pretty inexpensive. It's only 45 bucks to buy it. And if you look around, sometimes it has a free trial. You can also try it if you just want to try it. That's what I did first. I tried the free trial first, and then I bought it. It does compile your book in EPUB, which you need if you're going to go on Nook or any other e-publication sites. And it will also do MOBI files. That's what I use it for. The MOBI files are the Kindle files. That's what Amazon wants. If you're going to do an ebook, they need it in MOBI. And I just can't get any other program to do it right. So that's why I use Scrivener's, because I can do it in MOBI. What this means is I'm laying out my books twice. I have to lay out the ebook, and then I have to lay out the print book. But it works for me. So, and also Scrivener has a lot of other options for you. It can help you outline your book. It has character development stuff. There's all kinds of gadgets and gizmos. I don't use any of them, but there are people who do. James Scott Bell, for example, now uses exclusively Scrivener to draft his books. He's a best-selling thriller author. So you have to use what works for you. So that's one. Draft to Digital is another one you can use. They have free formatting options on their website. It doesn't cost you any money to use their formatting options. You can go on and you can format your ebook and you can download the file and it's yours. They don't charge you anything. Same with your print now. They didn't used to do that, but they now offer print. They also have templates you can use to help the formatting, make it easier. You can just pick a template, throw in your file, and it formats it for you. It's actually pretty nice in that sense. It doesn't format things the way I want them. That's why I don't use it. But there's nothing wrong with it if you want to use it. You also have Kindle Create. I am not a fan of Kindle Create. I think there's some monster inside that program that does not like me, because every time I try and use it, it complains. And I just can't figure it out. I have used it before when I had to do a PDF, like of the, it wasn't of this one, yeah, it was, of the Writer's Guide to Archer. I had to use it, and because Scrivener wouldn't do it, so I had to use it. And I also used it for my big box set, because the other one couldn't handle it. So it is what it is. It's free. You can just download it for free. It doesn't cost you anything. But hopefully it won't hate you like it hates me. Vellum is another one, but this is only available for Apple users. And it's also pricey. It's going to cost you $200, $250 bucks to buy. I don't have an Apple, so I've never used it, so I can't say anything else about it, except that I know that there are professional authors who love it and use it all the time. It will format both ebooks and print. And then, of course, there's Microsoft Word. That's what I used to do my first one. It was cumbersome. It can be done, but it's cumbersome. You have to eliminate all the formatting inside there. What you have to do is take your text up online, delete all the formatting, put it down, and format specifically for publishing. I think it's cumbersome. I use Microsoft Word to draft all of my stuff, but I don't use it to publish anymore because the first run through was too painful. So we gave up and moved on. All right, so those are some of the formats for ebook. For print, you have pretty much the same one. Scrivener's there. You can use it. My favorite is this one, InDesign. This is an Adobe product. I absolutely love InDesign. I have to admit, though, there's a steep learning curve for InDesign. And this is partly why I'm bald. Because the process of learning how to do this can be really, really painful. But I'm glad I did it, because now I lay out my books in InDesign, and they just look so much nicer. And once you figure it out, it's so much easier. Yeah.
Can you give an example on through InDesign versus, say, through Scrivener? Maybe an aspect that is more professional in that from your experience versus using one of the others. Can you give us an example?
More professional for InDesign? Mm-hmm. So InDesign has a system set up so I can actually format my pages So I can do all the page formatting I want with the header, the page number and all that stuff. I get that stuff set up ahead of time, and then I copy paste the text in, and then I can just go in and say, okay, I have a paragraph style that I want to use, and then I can tell it how to do it. So, I mean, if you look in these books, I do different paragraph styles. So if you look at the chapter heading, right, you have a style here for the chapter heading. All I got to do is highlight that, click on my style I created, and it's all done.
Okay.
It centers it, puts everything in. I like the drop cap thing. I set up my first paragraph to do that, and all the other paragraphs don't. Right? And you can set that up pretty easily, and then it's just a matter of putting it in, clicking on it, and you're done.
So you couldn't do that in Scrivener?
You have to individually format every one in Scrivener,
Manually.
unless Katie knows some other way to do it. that's how I do it.
I haven't actually formatted for print in Scrivener.
Yeah,
I use it for manuscript formatting,
Yeah.
and then I formatted in Microsoft Word for my
Yeah. In Scrivener, you have to go in on each one and do it individually.
Do all of those have flexibility with your font usage?
Yeah.
So no limitations there?
Not well. Okay, it depends. There are fonts you have to buy
Right.
if you want to use those. If you're not going to buy them, you have to use commercially fonts that are royalty-free, commercial use only
Okay.
fonts. And so you have to be careful there because there are fonts out there that are available. You can use them, but then if you try and publish it, you're actually breaking the law because you have to buy them to.
So for example, would either InDesign or Scrivener, are they like a gatekeeper of that, where if you try to use a font, they'll catch it?
No.
Or no, you have to do your research on that? Okay.
Anything that's preloaded is going to be royalty-free though, I think, right?
Yep, and you
Okay.
can buy some from Adobe. They have fonts you can buy from Adobe.
The ones where it says like DA font.
Okay.
Yeah,
Font
font
space.
space. There'll be
Yeah.
a green check mark and it'll say commercially free next to it if you can use it. Otherwise, it'll tell you you have to buy it.
Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
But if you're going to use a font, the font needs to be readable. One of the things people do is they like to be creative and put these illegible fonts in their books, right? Nobody can read them. I use Garamond 11 is point font is what I use. I like Garamond. I think it's really legible. I think it looks nice. It looks professional. That's why I use it. But that's after playing around with other fonts. So this font is horrible, but I use it in this book. We shipped it to Garamond. All right, so Draft to Digital will also allow print stuff, as I mentioned, so that's there. Vellum is there also, and of course, Microsoft. Again, I did this one in Microsoft. It can be done. What you have to do is save it as a PDF, and then it'll upload in Kindle. Okay, any questions about that? Yeah.
I have two questions. So, what does MOBI mean? I guess
I don't even know what it stands for. Do you know
Mobile
what
book.
Mobile book?
So it's like a PDF but for a book. instead of-
Yeah.
It's not openable unless you open it on an e-reader.
Okay.
It's just
So
a
we're-
format of, so instead of like .doc, it'll be .mobi.
Yeah, it's a simplified format for e-readers and tablets and phones.
Okay.
But it's the only one that KDP accepts for ebooks, I think. They might do DocX. Do they do DocX?
I can't remember if they do DocX. I think they might.
They
The
might do
DocX
DocX.
is finicky, so I don't use it.
Yeah, I wouldn't use it. You're better to use Mobi because you're going to get a better translation
Yeah.
across.
So it always needs to go into that format.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why I use Scrivener because it'll compile it in Mobi format.
Yeah, there are also other free programs you can use to make different movies.
Yeah, Kindle Create will make a Mobi file for you.
Yeah.
All right, and then under print for draft to digital, you say allows you to create a PDF for print books but does not distribute print books.
Not yet. They're going to, I think. But right now they have the stuff up there. You can actually put your print book and format it, but they don't actually distribute. They're an ebooks distributor is what they are. Yeah. If you want to distribute print, you've got to go through Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Ingram Spark. Kobo does print too. I don't know if Apple Book does. I don't know if Apple Book does. Okay? All right, now we get to the infamous ISBN. Here's the deal with ISBNs. Each format of your book must have its own ISBN. You can't buy one ISBN and put it on all the formats. It won't work. It'll spit you back out. You have to have one for your ebook, one for your print, one for your large print if you're going to do that, one for your audiobook. You have to have separate ISBNs for all of them. So that means if you're going to print in all four of those formats, you have to have 4 ISBNs if you go wide. If you go narrow and you stay with Amazon, You either don't have to have an ebook ISBN, so all my ebooks on Amazon, none of them have ISBNs. I'm just not going to deal with it because there's no point. You can use a free one if you want, or you can buy one and put it on there. But since ESBNs are pricey, I'm not going to throw an ESBN that I bought on an ebook when I'm only distributing it exclusively through Amazon. There's no point. So that's my opinion. The other thing is, as I said, so each one requires on ISBN. They're not required. Ebooks do not require them on Amazon. That's up to you. Everybody else will. If you put your ebook wide, you're going to have an ISBN on your ebook. Does that make sense, everybody? Okay, so Amazon offers free ISBNs for your print and your ebooks. The thing you need to know, though, is that when it's listed, these things are registered, and when it's registered, it's listed as it used to be CreateSpace, but that's gone away now. Now what it registers as is independently published. So that's the thing to remember. If you buy your own ISBN and you have your own publishing company, or you want to, you can put your own publishing company on there. I use Bentbow Publishing because we're going to probably this year maybe formally establish the business. And so I'm preparing for that ahead of time. So the ISBNs I buy now are registered under Bentbow Publishing. So that goes out on Ingram Sparks, and a bookstore or library looks at it, it says Bentbow Publishing. It doesn't say independently published. If you buy it from Amazon or you buy it from Ingram Sparks, it's going to say independently published. Because they purchased the ISBN, you didn't. And they registered it, you didn't. Does that make sense? So that's something to remember. If you're going to buy ISBNs, be careful. There's a lot of scoundrels out there who want to rip you off, right? There's only one legitimate source. Amazon ISBNs are not accepted by the publishers, I mentioned that already. There's only one legitimate source, is Bowkers or Bokers, however you like to say it. These people actually are the only authorized dealer of US ISBNs in the world. So you have to buy them from them. Anybody else who's selling you an ISBN bought it from them first, right? And they're just reselling it to you for a markup. But here's the trick. This is how they run this. I want you to look at this and tell me if this doesn't bother you as much as it bothers me. So the cost for one ISBN is $125 on Bowker. But they'll sell you 10 of them for $295. What does that tell you about how much this really costs them? Yeah. So it's a scalping operation, basically, in my opinion. But nonetheless, it's the monster we have to play with, and so you have to bite the bullet and do it. Here's what I did. Rather than buying these up front when I didn't have any money, because I was still trying to figure out the process and pay for all the book covers and all that stuff. What I did was I just accepted on the first couple of volumes I did. Amazon, I just used the free ISBN from Amazon because that's all the only place I was. And then once I earned enough money, I used that money to buy 10 ISBNs. And now all my stuff is going to have its own ISBN on it. That means I can put it up on Ingram Spark.
So you can buy them before you've actually written them in.
Oh yeah, you can buy them today and I never use them.
All right.
They don't care. They just want to buy it. Yeah.
But you can't re-ISB on the ones that they already gave you free. Those ones, the ship has already sailed on those, right?
No, yeah, it's gone. So here's a challenge. So my first two Arts and Heathland series, those have the free Amazon ISBN on them. Now I could go pull those and put a new ISBN on because for Ingram Spark, I release those on Ingram Spark and they have an Ingram Spark ISBN or my own ISBN on there because Ingram doesn't accept Amazon. But I didn't go in and change it on Amazon. Why? Because it'll totally screw up my sales algorithms on Amazon. If I change the ISBN, I'm basically publishing a new book. And all that sales and data history goes away. And I'm not willing to risk it. I'll just publish two versions. One with an Amazon ISBN, one with an Ingram ISBN.
So you can't be sued then if you have two different ISBNs, but the text is the same, the cover's the same, the
As
story's the same.
far as I know. So I'm not a lawyer or an expert, but as far as I know, it's okay as long as I control the rights. Okay. All right. Any questions about that? Yeah.
Kindle Direct Publishing, they don't make you sign away the rights, right?
No.
Okay, so you still retain the rights, even though you've gone that route and you've gone narrow and you've done all that stuff, you still own the rights?
Yeah, they don't own any rights. They
Okay.
just have an exclusivity agreement that they'll distribute the ebook on Kindle Select. And as long as it's in Kindle Select, you can't distribute it anywhere else.
Okay.
but they don't take any of the rights. Okay, so copyrights, here's the deal. You write it, you own it. And then as soon as you copyright it, it's yours. As soon as you've written it, it's copyrighted, according to US law. But if somebody steals it, you got a problem. Because if you have to defend it in court, you're toast, unless you've registered the copyright. This is a new decision, it happened about 3-4 weeks ago now with the Supreme Court. What they decided was that unless you've registered your copyright with the US Copyright Office, you cannot protect yourself from copyright infringement in court.
So don't publish on Wattpad.
On what?
Wattpad. A lot of people publish on there to get an audience before they publish the book wide, and a lot of books are sold that way.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
What is it called, Wattpad?
Wattpad.
And unless they've registered that book with the Copyright Office, there's nothing to do to recover it. And it'll cost you a whole lot of money too anyway, probably more than you're losing. All right, so the cost of this, well, it costs $35 for most books. And then, of course, if you've done only an ebook, then you can just send them an email with it. But if you've done a print book like I have, then you have to send them the print copy of it. Okay, that's, yeah.
Do you have to buy the copyright every year, or is this a one-time?
My understanding, again, I'm not a lawyer, but my understanding is that no, you just do it one time and it's registered. I haven't gotten around to doing this yet. I looked on the site and went through it. I've got everything in there, but I haven't done it yet because I got other things on my plate right now. So I'll get there eventually. All right. So let's talk about how you're going to distribute this thing. This is the next choice you have to make. How to distribute your book. This again is going to be determined by whether you're going wide or narrow. If you're going narrow, then you're just going to be on Amazon. And I think for a new author, this is an important place to be. Kindle Select gives you access, allows you to publish your books on there in any format you want. And if you're in Kindle Select, you can actually have access to a large audience of readers who can take your book for without risk. If they don't like it, they can return it. And it doesn't cost them anything. This is a way to build an audience. And it can take time, though. You have to remember this. It takes time for word to get out. When I first published them, we had almost 0 page reads. Now, last month, I had 531,000 page reads on my books. So it can happen, and it can be a substantial part of your income. So this is just my opinion. In my opinion, if you're an author starting out without a platform, without an audience, you're kind of crazy not to be in Kindle Select with your books. That's just my opinion. Again, there are many people who disagree with me, but that's my opinion. Yeah.
How many years did it take you to go from the 0 to the 525,000 pages?
So the first book was published in November of 2017, and this was last month.
Wow.
Takes time to build an audience. Okay, other things when you're, so they have all these formats. Again, KDP is pretty easy to use. I think it's really easy to use. It's pretty self-explanatory, just kind of go through and fill it out. And there's plenty of videos to help you walk through it. You can choose between 35% and 7% royalties, depending on what price you want to put on your book. If you're between $2.99 and $9.99, then you're going to be in that 70% range. If you go above that, then you're in the 35% range. If you go below it, you're in the 35% range. Make sense? That's for ebooks. Okay, so again, Kindle Select, I recommend it if you're just starting off. Royalties. They have expanded distribution on there again, but as I said, that's up to you. I think it's largely not going to be as much use. You can also advertise directly on Amazon to your readers, which I think again is one of the useful things you want to pull out of this. Now here's a caveat I want to tell you about. So when you're using keywords on your page, so what you do is they give you 7 keywords you can use on KDP, and what this means is these are words or phrases that if people search for them or bits and pieces of them, your book will pop up on their search results. Right? That's what the keywords are for. One of the mistakes that new authors make is they assume that they need to put words from their description or from their title in the keywords. That's a waste of your keywords. You only have 7 of them. So you shouldn't do that with your keywords. If it's in your title, if it's in your book description, it's already in the algorithm. It's already going to be used. Right? So what you want to do is you want to be use descriptive phrases in your keywords. So here's an example. You might say a paranormal romance with a child ghost. Now, is anybody going to search that direct phrase? Probably not. But those then become keywords. Every single one of those words gets listed as one of your keywords, as does the phrase and combinations of the phrase in the algorithm. And so you get much better search results if you put in these descriptive keywords. Does this make sense? So you might put in something like this, historical fantasy with no magic. That might be your keyword, or key phrase you put in. That's how you use them. And that's important to do it this way when you're doing it because it expands your search results. So you get more people hitting your book in their search results when they search this way. If you just put one word in there, that's the only word that's going to show up, right? Does that make sense? And this can create weird things. So, for example, I think in one of them, I think it was Vengeance. It's the third book. I put romance in one of the phrases, the word romance in there. And now when you go on, you can look at your books and see where they're trending on the bestsellers list. And so my thing is selling as a romance action adventure. What the heck is that? I don't know. But that's how it's marketing. So you get strange things out of these. Yeah.
So if you can only choose 7 words, if you put a phrase in like that, you've said 5 words already. Right?
You can use 7 keywords and there's a character limit. I'm not sure, I don't remember what the character limit is. So you can put the phrase in, that'll count as one keyword.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And there are things out there to help you. I have them on this sheet. You can use wordtracker.com, you can use Booksprout, you can use KDP Rocket. They all have keyword finders to help you figure out your keywords if you want to use them. Most of them are free, some charge. I haven't used any of them, so I can't really say which is better. Okay, so if you're going to go narrow, you're going to need to be on Amazon KDP. That's the place to be. All right, if you go broad, Ingram Spark is one you're going to want to be on. This is the major book distributor in the country. They distribute ebooks and print. They're the ones who get into libraries and bookstores. They market directly to them. And so if you want to get in libraries and bookstores, you're going to have to be on Ingram Spark. But there are some problems here, I think. Remember that bookstores often don't like using Amazon because they see it as a competitor. And so they often won't buy it from them. And also Amazon doesn't offer any, they used to on CreateSpace, but on KDP they don't really offer much in the way of a discount for people who are going to redistribute your book, and they have to have a discount if they're going to make a profit. So they want that. They also want returnability. They want to be able to return the book. And Amazon has no mechanism for that. So for those reasons, bookstores just don't usually use Amazon. But they do use Ingram Spark. That's an important one. The challenge with Ingram Spark is they do allow you to return unsold inventory. They do allow it to be discounted. But they charge you $25 to list the book. This is above and beyond the cut of royalties they already take, like Amazon takes. They take royalties out of you. But they also charge $25 just to list an ebook. If you're going to list a print and an ebook edition, they'll charge you $50 for both editions. Or if you just list print, it's $50 for the print. Hardly seems fair to me, but that's the way it works. And if you decide at any point you have to do something like change the cover, or you need to edit it, maybe you found some typos you want to fix, and you go back and relist it, they charge another $25 to fix any editing errors or mistakes. KDP does not. It's free. You can fix it as many times as you want, have a good time doing it. But they charge you. The other thing that I think you need to be aware of, they also require non-Amazon ISBN, so you can't use your Amazon ISBN on there. They will sell you one for $89, but again, it's going to list it as independently published. It's not going to have your name on it as being the publisher. You need to be aware of the return option. This, I think, is one of the most evil things Ingram Spark does. I'm not a real fan of this policy. Yes, they allow returnability. However, when you allow books to be returned through Ingram Spark, you get charged. And here's how it works, more or less. I'm just going to pull some numbers out of the air, but more or less what happens. Let's say you put your book up there and you got a royalty on, say you sold for $10. You got a royalty of $2 off of it when they sell it. So you sold your print book, they get a royalty of $2. You get a royalty, you put that in your bank, you think you're done. If the next week that person returns that book, then what they do is they charge you the wholesale price of the book, that $10 again, and then they have two options. You can either have the book pulled, or you can have it shipped to you. If you have it shipped to you, they charge you an additional $2. So if you think about it, if you take the book and it gets returned, and you got a $2 royalty out of that, and they charge you $10, well, you're already down $8. And then if they charge you $2 to ship to you, you're now out of pocket $10 loss for every single book that's returned. Now when you think about that, let's say you had some kind of strange, crazy win, and all of a sudden you sold 10,000 books and 5,000 got returned, you're going to be paying more in return fees than you earned in royalties. Right? There's a horrifying story online of a woman who ended up paying $20,000 to have her books returned. She sold thousands of copies and then had a bunch of book restored to return them. And she basically lost all her money. So this is my biggest beef with Ingram Spark. Consequently, I do not participate in the return building. I know that that's going to mean most bookstores are not going to take my book. I understand that. But I'm not willing to take that risk. I can't afford it. But that's your choice. Any questions about that?
So you can opt out of that then?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a good thing or I wouldn't be on Ingram Spark.
Okay.
So why would anybody opt in?
Because if you want bookstores to take it, you have to opt in.
Okay.
They want returnability, and it makes sense. I mean, they're a business. They can't have unsold inventory sitting on the shelves forever. They got to do something with it. It costs them money.
Does that mean you do it for the library side?
Yeah, no, you can't pick and choose. It's either you do it or you don't. Yeah. Most libraries, I don't know, I mean, Pamela can, most libraries don't return a book, I don't think.
No, because we would
Yeah, they're-
not order a huge amount.
Yeah, they're not ordering
One
volume.
title, maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah, I don't,
Okay.
but it's really the bookstores that's the issue. But either opt in or you opt out. I opted out, so.
So then if you opted out, but you said you're still on Ingram Spark, so what do you get from that then if you can't have?
I still sell books. I have their advertised for me, and I sell some books. I don't sell a lot of books on Ingram Spark, but I sell some. It helps me get more a broader audience and wider recognition. It's not perfect. Nothing is. So, okay, so that's Ingram. Kobo. I don't have a lot to say about Kobo because I've never used it. But Kobo is a Canadian company. What's good about them is they recently cut a deal with Walmart to sell their ebooks and audiobooks through Walmart. So if you want to get on Walmart on their website for audiobooks, you got to go through Kobo now. And again, Walmart is a huge place. People are looking for things in Walmart. So that was a good deal for them. They're going to be continuing. They're aggressively growing their market share. They're somebody to keep an eye on. If you're going to go wide, Kobo is a good place to be. It gets you access to the Canadian audience and also the Walmart audience. So there's, all right, I'm saying these things without clicking my button, I'm sorry. So that's the Walmart audience. What are some others? Well, you've got, of course, Nook, Barnes & Noble. They do print and ebook. I did use them initially for the ebooks, but I hadn't bought my ISBN yet, so I didn't put them in there in print. Now Ingram Spark distributes through them, so there's really no point. They're marketed already, so I don't use it anymore. Draft to Digital is another one out there that I mentioned before. They distribute ebooks. They distribute them to Barnes & Noble, to Kobo, to Apple Books, and to Amazon. I think those are the ones they distribute to. As of yet, they don't just offer print distribution, but I imagine that's probably coming. We'll see. Things are constantly changing. What's nice about them is they don't charge you anything to use their immediate services, so it doesn't cost you any money to put the book up. It doesn't cost you any money to use their formatting programs. What they do is for every book you sell, they charge you 15% of the net royalties.
50?
15.
Or 15?
Yeah. Another one I don't know anything about is Smashwords. I've never used it, but I know it's out there. They offer 70 or 60% royalties, and they, again, I think they're a major ebook distributor. They don't do print as far as I know. Okay, any questions about that? We're finally getting into marketing stuff. They're really excited. Okay, so here's the next question you have to ask yourself. How are you going to market or promote your book? And this is actually a really big question, because this is the reality. When you're a new author, you have a fierce enemy, anonymity. The reality is no one knows you. Unless you've already built the platform some other way using Wattpad or something else, you have no audience initially. We know this is our biggest fear, the fear that nobody will read our work plagues most of us, keeping us awake at night. No matter what some authors say, we publish because we want to be read. And I think that's true. So this is what marketing is for. Marketing is to help you get over this anonymity problem. That's really what it's about. So the first thing to learn about marketing is this, and this is the most important thing to learn about marketing, I think. Your book is your most valuable marketing tool. Let me say that again. Your book is your most valuable marketing tool. And that means you have to make sure it's as good as you can possibly get it. Again, there's no such thing as a perfect book, but you want to make it as good as you can possibly get it. And there's this phrase I like to use. The first line sells your book. The ending sells your next book. Right? The first line sells your book. The ending sells your next book. If people get done with your book and they're not satisfied, they're not likely to pick up your next book. So that's something to remember and live by, I think. I think this is also probably the most important thing new authors fail to understand, is that no matter how anxious you are to get the book out there, how great you think the book is, it's really important you take the time, and it does take time, to go through the editing process, to go through the process of getting things cleaned up so that your book is as good as you can possibly make it. That's important. Okay, so if you think about marketing then, once you understand this principle, you have this question. How do readers decide to buy a book? You should go into a bookstore and just follow people around for a while, and you're going to see a common pattern, right? In fact, you've all done this, right? The first thing you do is you see a title or a cover that catches your attention, you pick it up and look at it, right? That's the first thing you do. If the cover does not catch your attention, you don't pick it up. Now, there's no cover that's going to catch everyone's attention. That just doesn't happen. You need to be marketing to your audience and playing to your audience. If you're writing a romance genre and you put covers like mine on the cover of the book, no romance reader is going to pick these up, right? Because they're not romance books, clearly. The cover tells me it's not a romance book, right? So you need to keep that in mind. That's your first step. The next thing you do is, well, if you like that, you'll turn it over, look at the back, you'll check out the cover copy, and you'll read it. If that intrigues you, then you take the next step. You'll open it up and you read the first line, maybe the first paragraph. If you're like that, you might even read the first couple pages while you're standing there. If that's done, your likelihood of buying the book is pretty high, right? If you're in the book market and you want to buy it, you're likely to buy it. If you do buy it, then you end up with the next step. And that is, you're going to read the book. And this is where you get the really important part. It has to meet your expectations. If it doesn't, if there's something in the book, that if the book makes a promise that is not fulfilled in the course of the book, the reader is less likely to buy your next book. This is why you need to make sure that you're not playing funny games with the reader. If you're writing a paranormal, there has to be something paranormal in that book, right? If you're writing a romance, there's got to be some kissing in that book, right? Otherwise, they're going to be disappointed and not going to pick up your next book. And the end has to fulfill the promises that you made at the beginning of the book. That's something really important. But this is the process we all go through, right? And that's something to keep in mind. I think as we're thinking about how we market our book, it's how we actually, since the book is our most important marketing tool, what kind of book we have out there really matters. So what do you do here? Well, if at any point in the sequence that this author's potential reader is going through, if at any point in there they find something that turns them off, they're going to put the book back on the shelf and you lost the sale. That's just the reality. And there are millions of books out there to choose from. So it's a hard sale, just from the beginning, because the competition is pretty intense. Okay, so after the book itself, word of mouth is your next best thing. And of course, if the book isn't fulfilling the promises, you're not going to get word of mouth. So it all starts with the book. Okay, so something else you have to have if you're going to market a book successfully, one is you have to have a strong story concept. See if anybody recognizes this one. Star-crossed lovers commit suicide rather than let their families tear them apart. Sound familiar? Romeo and Juliet. How many books have used this exact same story concept? Right? Dozens and dozens, right? So it's a good story concept. It's a strong one. How about this one? World War II soldiers track down the only survivor from amongst 4 brothers. Band of Brothers. Exactly. It's a strong story concept, right? This is the kind of thing you want to be doing in your planning stage, thinking about your story concept. Even if you're already done with the novel, you need to go back and figure out what is the concept behind this. Because if you have a good, strong concept, that becomes a really important marketing tool. It's one you want to use. Okay, another thing you want to have is a great title. Here are some of my favorite titles. You already know I was going to say that one, right? To Kill a Mockingbird. A Beautiful Place to Die. That just makes me want to open the cover and see what the heck is inside this thing. Right? I have no idea what the book's about. I've never read it. I just came across it. I think it sounds great. Right? That's a great title. How about this one? The Maze Runner. I did read that one, and I loved it. Right? How about this one? Wednesday Wars. Anybody read this one? Okay, you're missing out. This is a classic. This is one of my favorite books of all time. You need to read Wednesday Wars. It's great. It's a middle grade, but I think it's fabulous. Here's one of my favorite books of all time. A Long Way from Chicago. This has, I think, in my mind, one of the best female characters in all literature. It's in here, I think. Grandma doubt it. But anyway, you should read that one. How about this one? That's a great one, right? Right, read this? How about this one? Bud Not Buddy. This is another great one. Christopher Paul Curtis wrote this one. It's a great book. Hunger Games. That one makes you stop and say, what? Right? That's a good title. That's the kind of thing you want to have happen. Once you've got a good title, you need an eye-catching cover. And the cover is really important. The cover has to properly signal the genre you're writing in. When you're developing your cover, what you need to be doing is going looking at comparative covers and figuring out, how do I make my cover look like theirs, but distinct enough to draw an audience. Right? You don't want to just copy somebody's cover, but it has to be signal the genre you're in. So here's one that signals the genre. What do you think the genres of this one?
Fantasy adventure.
Fantasy adventure, exactly. Brandon Sanderson Stillheart. By the way, anybody read this one?
My son has.
It's worth reading. It's actually a good book.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a great author. I like Brandon Sanderson. How about this one? What's the genre?
Romance.
Yeah. How about this one?
Historical.
Historical fiction, probably historical romance. Right? So this is what you got to do, is you got to figure this out. You have to figure out how to make sure your cover is signaling the proper genre. Because you're marketing to a specific audience. If the audience can't figure out what the book is about, they're not going to pick it up. Right? So you have to figure that out. And it's not easy. That's a real challenge. That's why a cover designer is really helpful. They can help you make those decisions. All right, next thing you need is a sizzling cover copy. So here's one. Again, this is a book I have not read, although I did try at one point. But look at the cover copy. About 3 things I was absolutely positive. First, Edward was a vampire. Okay, wait a minute. Second, there was a part of him, I don't know how dominant that part was, that thirsted for my blood. The third, I was unconditionally and irrevocably in love with him. That is great cover copy.
She definitely did not write that cover copy.
She probably did, I don't know. I have no idea. But that's a darn good cover copy, right? That's the kind of say, geez, I'm going to open that and just kind of look at it just to see. I may not buy it because I'm not a romance reader really, but I would look it up just for the cover copy. I'd open the book, right? Here's another one. When Thomas wakes up in the lift, the only thing he can remember is his name. He's surrounded by strangers, boys whose memories are also gone. Outside the towering stone walls that surround them is a limitless, ever-changing maze. It's the only way out. No one knows, or no one's ever made it through alive. Then a girl arrives, their first girl ever, and the message she delivers is terrifying. Remember, survive, run. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
It makes you want to read it, right? That's what you've got to try and accomplish. And again, this is extremely difficult to take your book down and create this great cover copy. And I have to say, I struggle with it every time. And I'm nowhere near getting this right. But it is a long learning curve. But that's what you want to try and accomplish. All right, how about this? And then great first lines, or even first paragraph. Here's some great first lines. I've seen Stillheart bleed. That thing kept me going through the entire book, because there's an answer until the end, right? What the heck? What does he mean he saw Stillheart bleed? Why does that even matter? Turns out because Stillheart doesn't bleed. He has a magic power that keeps him from bleeding, and he can't be harmed by anyone who intentionally wants to harm him. Giving away. Anyone who wants to intentionally harm him, but you don't know that until the very end of the book. And then you have to figure out how he's going to defeat this guy. It's a great opening line. You guys all know this one. I love this one. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of good fortune must be in want of a wife. Isn't that great? What a great first line. How about this one? I've heard it said girls can't keep secrets. That's intriguing. There was a boy called Eustace Clarence Scruggs, and he almost deserved it. That's a good one. When a man you know to be a sound mind tells you his recent deceased mother has just climbed into his bedroom window and tried to eat him, you only have 2 basic options. That's pretty good, yeah? So that's why the first line of a book is often the most labored over part of the entire book. For me, it's the beginning and the ending that I labor the most over. It's so important to get them right, or at least get them good enough. Because if their first opening line doesn't catch them, you're toast. They're not going to pick up the rest of the book. If the ending doesn't catch them, then you're not going to sell the next book. All right? So that's why those matter. Okay, and then of course you also have to have, at the very end, your book has to fulfill the promises that you made at the beginning. It has to keep readers wanting more, and that's really, really crucial. The other thing you need to have is you need to have, so you have to have a satisfying ending, and you also have to have an effective price. That's going to be determined by your genre. So you need to do some genre research and figure out what is the going price for your books in print and in ebook. In most cases, $2.99 to $4.99 is going to be your best bet, especially if you're just getting started, because people don't want to lay out a lot of money for somebody they don't know. So if you're first getting started, it's good to be in that range. I have my first book up for $4.99. The next 2 books are up for $5.99. They're actually a little bit bigger than the first one too, so they're a little bit more higher printing costs. So I had to jack it up a bit, but that's how I have it. Okay, so again, do some market research and you can figure that out. All right. So the next question you have to ask is, well, the next thing you have to have is you have to have a place where readers can find you. So if you're going to get serious about self-publishing, you need to have a website. And this means you're going to have to lay out some cash. It's not very expensive, but you're going to have to buy a domain name, and you're going to have to purchase space on a hosting site. I use Bluehost and I use WordPress. They're not too expensive, but it is an upfront cost you have to have. So again, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. This isn't a website tutorial, but just to briefly go through some of the things that you should have or want to have on a website. You want to have a landing page where people can find out about your books. For me, it's my home page. The first page people come to and they type in my URL is my home page. All my books are right there. That way there's no fiddling around trying to find things. I don't know about you, but websites that lose me annoy me, right? So, and if I get annoyed, I leave, and everybody else is too. The basic rule of thumb is you've got 3 seconds to catch them and keep them on your site. If you don't do it in 3 seconds, they're gone. So you need to have your site set up to actually do that for you. You need to have a way for people to sign up to your free email list. You should be building an email list as part of your basic marketing campaign. So I can show you that later too. You have to have a way for them to contact you. I have my email on there, so people contact me, and I've had recently several people contact me about the books. Some people just how much they liked them. One lady just contacted me and told her dog ate the book. And I'm like, yeah, my students say that all the time. The dog ate my essay. But she actually showed me a picture. The dog had chewed her book to pieces, and she didn't have the last 2 chapters. So I just emailed it to her, right?
Nice.
I can do that because I'm a self-published author, right? Okay, also, you need to have a Meet the Author page. This should have your bio, should have photos, stuff like that. You should have a photo that looks professional, and usually not one taken with your cat or your dog, right? Usually it's just your head, right? If you want to have other ones on there that have your cat and dog on there, that's perfectly fine. But you should have at least one for marketing purposes. If somebody needs to, if you're going to talk to a library, or you're going to get asked to go to a conference, they're going to want to have a headshot of you that doesn't have your dog in it, right? So you need to have at least one of those professional shots. Anything else you put on there is up to you. You can personalize it however you want. And it's not a bad idea to have a blog or a newsletter of some kind if you feel inclined to do this. I'm not a blogger. I'm not temperamentally fit to be a blogger. There's nothing wrong with being a blogger, but it's just not the way my body and my mind work. But I do have a newsletter, and I do send out stuff occasionally, and I do submit free content on my website. Okay, other things you might want to add. This stuff you can add if you want. You can add exclusive content page. I just started doing this. I only have one thing on it so far. But I put up a free short story that I wrote that people can just go on and read for free. And I sent it out to my email list as a thank you for them being on my email list and following me. And I had almost 150 hits of people who actually went and read that short story. So you can put videos on there, you can put whatever you want. It's just exclusive content. It's stuff that you can only get on my website, right? You might have a book recommendations page. I have on mine a writer's help page for people who want to write. I have some stuff on there to help writers. You might have a media kit on there. A media kit's a place where they can go and get all the stuff they need to promote your book. So I think that's where Patty went to get the photo. She just went on my media page and grabbed it and was able to get it right off of there. So that simplifies things for people who want you to talk to them. It's a good thing to have. You can also have an appearance and speaking schedule thing. I have this on mine. I don't give a whole lot of speaking things, but I've been doing some recently. I just gave one in Ashton, right? Was it Ashton? Ashton. St. Anthony. Not even close. In St. Anthony, Idaho, and at the high school there. And I thought I was going to just one class, an English class of maybe 20, 30 students, and we walked in, there were 120 kids in the auditorium. And I was totally clueless because what I was going to do was not appropriate for 120 kids. So it threw me back a bit. But so you never know. But I got worked that out because I had a lady send me an email that she found in my books, contacted me, and so we set it up. You should also have, I think, a works in progress page where you keep people up to date. People who are following you want to know what's coming next and how long they have to wait for it, right? So that's a good thing to have on your page. All right. We're running low on time, so I want to go through these, the rest of this pretty quick. Any questions about this? Okay, the rest of this is mostly on the handout. Here's some authors' websites. This is Bernard Cornwell, obviously a best-selling author. He's got his books right there, the books. Personally, I don't like it there. I like it on the homepage, but that's just my preference. If I have to look for it, people get frustrated. I think it's easier to just put it up front, but that's just me. This is my homepage. And I have my little logo up there, and then I have the books are all listed down on the bottom. That's all the stuff I have on my page. And this is constantly a work in progress. I'm constantly working on it. I was going to say lovingly, but that's not true. I'm usually screaming and crying and throwing fit because it's complicated. Yeah.
Did you design your own webpage?
Yes. Is that a good thing?
I'm just asking because you said you buy the domain name and whatever, and I was just curious, do you?
So what I used was I used a template called Tesseract,
Okay.
which I got for free, and I liked the way it was set up, and so I just used it. This stuff here on the front page is what do you call those things? A plugin. It's called My Book Table. That one costs you money.
Okay.
It's not very much. I can't remember how much it was. But that allows you to list your books like this. I think it does a nice job listing them.
Yeah.
That's why I use it. Okay, so let's wrap this up real quick. Oh, there's Stephanie Myers. Anybody know what the things with the hair is about? I don't follow her, so I haven't got a clue. Medusa? I don't know.
It doesn't look like Medusa, but I'm just looking.
I don't know what it is. Yeah, it's a squid head. So anyway, Brandon Sanderson's here. Again, your webpage, you want to signal your genre by your webpage, as this one does. It's pretty clear what this genre is. Yeah?
Adventure.
I didn't hear what you said.
Adventure.
Okay, we're fine, yeah. Fair enough. All right, so let's go through some of these really quick. So free advertising that's available to you. One thing I think you must do, and this is totally free, when you're writing an ebook, put a link in the back of your book to your next book, right? Make it as easy as possible. If they finish that book and they like it, make it so you just go click and they're right to it, right? That's what you want to do. You should do that. That's a basic marketing strategy. Make it easy. Eliminate all the barriers in the way of somebody finding your stuff. And that's one way. Just put a link there. Another thing I think you should do is ask for a review. At the end of all my books, I tell them I'm an independently published author, and reviews help me sell books. If they enjoyed the book, I ask them for an honest review. Most people aren't going to do it. The reality is you're going to get maybe one review per 1,000 reads of your book. That's kind of the rule of thumb. So, but you should do that. Also, discount marketing is something I recommend. This lets you discount your book. You can put it down on Amazon, allows you to do it. If you're in KDP Select, you can do this. If you're not, I'm not sure about this. I think if you're not, you can't.
I don't think you can.
I don't think you can if you're not in there. This particular process. You can still market it through the advertising program. That doesn't matter. But you can't actually use the discount. Discount's a good way to get people who want to try your stuff but don't want to throw out $4. They'll throw out 99 cents for it, and you still get 35 cents in royalties. So that's what you get from a publisher anyway. So it's not that bad.
Is that temporary, or are you doing that as?
It's temporary. Yeah, Amazon, if you're in Select, it allows you to do it for 5 days, out of every 90-day period. They also let you give away free books on there for 5 days out of every 90-day period.
Do they have to be consecutive days, or can you say?
No,
Okay.
you can break it up. Yeah, but you just get 5. The free book thing is another one. This is the kind of book giveaways. You can use Amazon to do this. They'll give you, again, you can do 5 in the 90-day period, and that's free. However, if I were you, if you only have 1 book, I wouldn't give it away free. It's not doing you any good, you're just losing revenue. If you have a series, giving away the first book in the series is a good strategy. Because if they like the first book, hopefully they'll buy through and you'll get the rest of your book sold. That's something to keep in mind. Also, Amazon has this system set up so you can actually set up a free giveaway of your book. It's completely separate from anything else. You just click on this. What they do is they make you buy the ebook, and then you put it up, and then people can come on that free giveaways thing. Have you seen this on Amazon? Do you get these advertisements? Well, they exist if you haven't seen them. And then you just go on. Anybody can click on it, and they used to do it randomly. They would give it away. Now you have to pick a number. So whoever is the 100th one gets the free book. I have 2 up right now. They're free giveaways. What that does is, I also put a requirement on there that they have to go and they have to follow my page, my Amazon authors page. That way I get eyes on my page. Is that going to result in sales? No idea. But I got eyes on my page. And that's one thing that you really need. So that's what I use. Goodreads also does it, but Goodreads now charges you $129 to list a free book. So as soon as they would charge $129, I quit doing it. I just don't think it's worth it. Not on Goodreads. Although Goodreads is a good place, because readers are there, but I don't do it. Okay, so short writing is another one. What this means is you write something short. Short story, novella, novelette, something like that. Preferably if you have a series, it'll be something in the world of your series. And you use this then to draw people to you. And there are places you can put them. I put mine on Prolific Works and My Book Cave, and they're given away for free. And depends on the day. I think I have a picture of it here somewhere. It depends on the day how much you can give away. I've given away hundreds of my books on there. Have they resulted in sales? I have no way of knowing. But it does give me visibility. And if people like it, there's a link in the back. They can click on it and go right to the next book. Right? So that's what I use them for. I also sell for 99 cents on Amazon because they won't let me give it away. So it's 99 cents. But what that is, it's a reader magnet. It draws people to the series. All right, Book Gorilla, I'm on there because it exists, but I haven't got a clue how to use it. So it's there. You can look at it. Another one is Advanced Copy Reviews. They call them ARCs or ACRs, right? And what these mean is, what you can do is you can give books to somebody and they then offer you a review. You can't demand a review, it's against Amazon policy, but you can offer it for free in the hope that they'll give you one. There are programs that help you do this. Booksprout is one. You can go on and offer it. And they have a system up there. They charge you for it. But it can work. I've used it before and I got 2 reviews. So, email lists. You should be building an email list. You should have a link on your website to click people through your email list right away. You can use MailChimp or ConvertKit to do it. I've never used ConvertKit, so I don't know anything about it. I use MailChimp. What I like about MailChimp is it allows me to use it for free until I get up to 2,000 people on my list, and then I have to start paying. So by then I have an email list that's worth hanging on to, it's worth paying for. Right now I'm just trying to build it. I still have a bit of ways to go before I have to pay, so hopefully the next few years I'll get there. The thing about email lists is you're only going to get about 1/3 of people on your list to click, or to open your email you send them, and only 1/5 of those is actually going to click through. That's just the reality of email lists. That's why bigger is better. If you've got a 25,000 page email list, you're going to have more clicks and more click-throughs than you would otherwise. So that's why you want to build it. And what's nice about email list is these are people who've given you permission to email them and market to them. Right? That's why you want to have it. But treat them kindly or they will go away. They can just unsubscribe. Right? So that's something to keep in mind. All right, so that's the free stuff. Oh, this is my Prolific Works giveaway. There you can see here, just on my regular normal one, I've already given away 739 copies of that one. And some of those resulted in sales. I don't know how many because they don't let me track that. And other giveaways that I'm in. The same book, just in different giveaway systems. I've given away several hundred. So it's a good thing to use. So this is what we call a reader magnet. This is your first paid one. It is reader magnets. Anything that draws somebody to your system is a reader magnet. And you can give these away for free, but since this is given away free, it is not in Kindle Select. It can't be, because it would be a violation of the exclusivity clause, right? So that's why I took it out of Kindle Select, so that I could give it away free elsewhere, use a reader magnet to bring my stuff in. So Prolific Works is one you can use. You've got My Book Cave, I use both of those. Prolific Works costs me $20 a month. My Book Cave is free unless you go to a certain level, which I refuse to do unless I have to, so I'm not there. You also have Book Funnel out there. I've used Book Funnel in the past, but I don't like it because they don't allow you to collect emails, which is the purpose of having this thing, unless you pay $15 a month, which I think is too steep for what they offer me. So I don't use it anymore. But you can get on there and you can list your stuff for free. You just can't collect emails, and that one costs you $20 a year if you do that. But you can't collect emails, so what's the point? BookBot is out there too. This is one that allows you to offer discounted or free books, and they charge you $10 to $15 depending on what you do. But they do require you to have at least 4 stars or above in your reviews on Amazon, or they won't list it. And you have to have 10 of those, or they won't list it. If you only have 5, forget it, they're not going to take you. All right, so those are some of the big ones. Amazon ads is the one I mentioned. This is my stats for the last 30 days on my Amazon ads. I've got sales and clicks highlighted, but you can highlight other things. I've had over 34,000 page impressions. What that means is it appeared on that many pages, right? And I still didn't get that many clicks. I mean, I got 799 clicks, so what percentage?
What is a click?
So what the click means is the ad shows up. If they click on it, you pay. And you can set the price how much you want to pay. You bid on it. So what I do is I check, and they tell you which ones are most likely to get a good bid, because other people are bidding too. And if their bid is better than yours, theirs is going to show up before yours does. So it's kind of a scam, but it gives you visibility. And since 85% of the market is there, I think you should be there. That's my opinion.
But then you can set up, like, I
Limits.
want to spend $3 a day or.
Yep. You can set up limits. I have mine set, the different ones. So my first one series is set at $10 a day because I want that one to go out, right? Because if I get people hooked on that one, I got the series sold, right? The others are much lower. They're like $3 a day because I don't want to wake up and find a bill for $10,000 because I can't pay it, right? So you can control that though. That's what I like about Amazon ads. You also have Facebook ads. I'm still trying to figure out how to make Facebook ads work. I spent money on them and haven't had any return that I could notice, and consequently I've stopped doing it. The reality is the old days of putting something up on Facebook and having millions of people see it are long gone. They're just gone. They've changed the algorithms, very narrow visibility for your stuff on Facebook anymore. That's why I quit doing it. You also have Goodreads ads. I have my Goodreads ads up there. They run like Amazon ads. The difference here is that you pay up front. So you can say, I want to put up, say, $100 up here, and for every click, you'll pay a few cents per click, 21, 50, 60 cents per click. And then once that $100 you put up runs out, then they cancel the ads, and you have to resubmit. But again, if you're going to advertise, if you're going to pay to advertise, the 2 places you should be advertising is Goodreads and Amazon, because that's where the readers are, right? That's my opinion. Then there's also this one, BMI Book. I'm not even sure what to do with these guys. I have this one up there because it cost me $10 for a whole year, but I don't know. They have all kinds of weird pricing. It's on the sheet, so I'm not going to go through it now. Okay, so that's some of the paid stuff you can do. Next question you have to ask, does any of this work? And the answer is yes and no, right? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And how do you know? You play with it. You try and figure out. Eventually you'll settle on stuff that is working for you. I've settled on some things that I know are working for me. I think the Amazon ads work for me. I continue to do those, but I don't continue to do everything. And I keep exploring. I'll try new avenues because the thing to remember about this is it's changing all the time. This is a moving target, and so you have to be flexible and willing to keep adjusting and trying new things. As new ideas come out, new programs show up, give it a try and see. If it works, great. If not, okay. All right, that's the secret. All right, so this just shows you, for my marketing efforts, this is what I've had. The bottom one here is my Kindle Unlimited page reads, and that is my book sales. And I think you can see, starting back here in August, is when I started to see the big, actually started in July. What I did here in July was I started advertising on Amazon. Then in July, and in late July, I figured out that I could put more than a couple of things on there. I could put in, when I did a manual search, I could put in hundreds of book titles and authors' names. When I put in 300, I saw this spike in August, and then it's been going up ever since. Part of that is because I got a Kindle Prime read for 3 months, which was really helpful. Part is because I've been doing the Amazon stuff. This stuff can work. Again, I wouldn't quit your job, but this stuff can work. It's just a matter of trying to figure it out. This is from my Data Sprout thing, which shows you my last month's sales from all this. So I had 707 ebook downloads. I had 49 print copies sold and 531,000 page reads. So again, if I quit my job, I would starve, but this does provide some additional revenue that's going to be very helpful. And that is ultimately what I want out of this, besides the pleasure of writing and publishing. Okay, so last parting bits of advice. Don't get overwhelmed. There's a lot here, and it can sound really depressing when you start getting into the weeds. But don't let it get you down. Take it one step at a time. You don't have to do everything at once. Start slow and build from there. That's the way to do it. And also just write the best book you can. It's not going to be perfect. No book is. There'll be problems with it, and if you continue to study the craft, you'll continue to get better as you go along. So just do it. But you should go into publishing, self-publishing with your eyes wide open. You understand what you're getting into if you're going to do this. You should also take time to learn the craft. I've already said that. But also, this is really important. Keep realistic expectations. Again, we assume, or we hear stories about people making it rich on here, and it does happen. Huey Howard's one. There are others out there who've made a boatload of money self-publishing. But if you look, most of those people got in the early days. Nowadays, the vast majority of people are either mid-listing and making some money, or they're not making very much. That's the reality of it. Ultimately, if you want to make money, you need to understand that this is a long-term process. It's going to take years. So don't quit your job. Take the long view and have some fun while you're doing it. Okay, let's wrap up. Let's end with a couple of fun quotes. Here's one I like. Robert Jack. Self-editing a novel is like trying to put pants on a cat. Yes, it's painful and time-consuming, but in the end, satisfying. Self-editing, in my mind, is the worst part of publishing a book. It's hard. It takes hours and days and weeks to do, and it's just painful. For me, it's painful. I like writing the book. I don't like editing the things. But it must be done. And so that's why I like this. It's like putting pants on a cat. No thanks. Okay, here's another one. Ryan Lilly. I enjoy self-publishing and sending publishers rejection letters. They're like, who is this guy? And I'm like, the end of your industry. So, I wouldn't go that far. But we do live in an age where the gatekeepers can be bypassed. The gatekeepers can be bypassed. But we should only do this if we understand what we're getting into. And if we're willing to pay the price, both figuratively and literally, to put out quality books time and again that will have readers coming back for more. That's ultimately the goal if you're going to self-publish. All right, that's all I got. Any questions about all that?